Hello, everybody, and welcome to 38 Weeks to Go, your weekly podcast about fantasy football. Today, with me, we have this game week's leader, Charlie Cardovillis, manager of Charlie's Reds. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks a lot, and thanks for inviting me. It's great to be on the show.
I'm very impressed with you. First of all, before we even get anywhere, tell me about your team name.
Charlie Reds, no secret, number one, because I'm Charles, and a lot of people call me Charlie. So that's where the Charlie, that's pretty straightforward. The Reds has everything to do with Liverpool. I've been a Liverpool supporter all my life since birth. My father was, followed the trend. And yes, we're never walking alone and sitting on top of the world. Isn't it interesting that I'm on this interview at this point when we're on top of the table?
I guess, it's by association. Everybody is rising.
Correct, correct.
So,
Yeah. So
76
yeah, good
points.
times. Yeah, yeah. So that's where it came from. Yeah, as simple as that. So Charlie Reds, and I've never changed it. People tend to maybe change their names every season. I've
Yeah,
kept it the same.
okay. Loyalty.
Yeah, yeah. As a long-term Liverpool fan, we learnt loyalty. We went through the drought for a very long time, and now the trophies are flowing in. So we hope it remains that way for a long time.
I hope so too. Well, I'm not a Chelsea fan. I mean, I'm not a Liverpool fan, so I don't hope so, but it's a nice spell for you guys, and I'm happy for you guys.
Thank you. Great.
So, tell me, 76 points. Walk me through your
Yeah,
team. What were you thinking?
it was pretty straightforward. We know that, it started a bit slow. Some of the top players were not doing very well as expected, and the points were coming in slowly. But I saw an opportunity to use my chip. So I actually used the bench boost because I had quite a strong bench. I had some money on the bench, and it was one of the chips that I just wanted to get rid of. Sometimes these chips can cloud your thinking in the future. And so what I said, if I go for the bench boost now, get my ranking, my world ranking up there, and also in my mini leagues, get it up there nice and early. Because usually I start a bit slowly as I study what's going on and then try and pick up later. So I said, let me try and start really quickly, get off the blocks really hard this season. So I just went for the bench boost, get it out of the way. It was a good opportunity to use my bench with the players that I had on the bench. And it paid off. I got 24, 25 points off the bench, and that was really good for me. So yeah, that's where the 76 points came from. And it really paid off because the people around me, I really did well against them. And my world ranking went from about, I think I was at 3.7, and I'm now in the top million. So it was a really, really
Wow.
good decision, and it paid off. And I'm happy about that.
That's well done. And also, I think it's always great to perform well when everybody is
Yeah,
performing poorly.
correct.
Because I think the average is like 41 for this week. And so to get
Yeah.
76, and even the highest got 112. So you're not even far off from the highest in the world this week. So I think it's always great to perform in such a low performing week because the gap just is that much bigger.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It wasn't starting too well, but of course, it picked up, and thank goodness. Pretty much everyone around me or in the top tier had Sanchez, who got the -3, so it didn't hurt too much.
I was just
And
about to ask about that.
sometimes and sometimes when you're not watching the games live or just following, and you're wondering what's going on, you're not following who's been sent off, what's going on, who's been substituted. So it can become a really stressful moment. But yes, it was a good decision to do the bench boost, and and it paid off well.
And now that Sanchez has gotten his red card, are you subbing him or are you just putting him to the bench?
No, if you notice, he's not flagged, so he's actually served his ban
Oh yes, because of the cup
during
game.
the Carabao. Yes. So it
Mm.
counts for that. So that's a good thing. We don't need to make a substitution there. So which is good. So I maintain Sanchez for the following game, which is quite good because on my bench I had Dubravka, who's playing Man City. So yeah, so I can keep Sanchez. I save that transfer, and I have Sanchez playing Brighton this weekend at home.
So I've seen you've used your bench boost this week. Have you used any of your other chips yet?
No, no other chips, not at all. That was my first one. There is the temptation to wild card, but I had two free transfers, and for one of the few times in the history since I've been playing the game, I've been playing since 2018, 2019 season.
Okay.
I made some really early subs during the week. So I did take advantage of my two transfers really quick just to avoid price drops and
Price
rises.
drops.
But I
Yeah.
hope it just doesn't come to haunt me because I did bring in Haaland now. And I hear he could have a back injury, but that just could be Pep talking. But yeah, so no other chips to answer your question. I've just used my two transfers. I've done them nice and early and hoping that this now again pays off for me.
This week, the biggest transfer has been Haaland in, Salah out. Is that what you did?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, I needed to do the Salah out. I could have done Bruno, but Bruno is just a performer. Whether the team is performing or not, he picks up the points and he has been picking up the points. So I did do the Salah to Haaland. I brought in Semenyo into the midfield, and I got
Okay.
rid of Watkins because Watkins, I mean, just been really underperforming.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I've got Watkins and Rogers in my team, so I
Oof.
just said, get rid of one of the Aston Villa attack. I have Rogers just there for safety. I can use him when Aston Villa begin to fire. Semenyo's just been on fire. I mean, he's been carrying Bournemouth, and he's on penalty, so I've got him there also because I know now a lot of people around me are going to have him, so I don't want to lose ground on them. And then, of course, bringing Haaland. So I've got a strong front three at the moment because I've got Haaland now, João Pedro, and Mateta.
Yeah,
And I know Mateta plays Liverpool this weekend, but we know Liverpool are also conceding goals. But Mateta is also on fire, and he'll
yeah.
be a bit of a differential for me. So that's my front three. So I did, yes, bring in Salah for Haaland. I don't try to make sentimental or emotional decisions because I know Salah is my man. Liverpool, you want them to do well, but I've got to separate the two. I've got to separate my FPL and my love for Liverpool.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, as a Liverpool fan, and removing Salah, there's some people who will be listening to this and be wondering, goodness. And
Yeah,
you,
it's like betting. You don't bet on your own team. You just hope they do well, but you don't put money on them.
you know what I do?
And
Like if I'm
yeah, so
if I'm a Chelsea fan, for example, and I think they're going to lose, I bet on them to lose because if
yeah,
they lose, at least I get something out of it. And if they win, I'll be happy anyway.
you'll be happy. Yes, so you win both ways.
You win both ways. Now, I've
Yeah,
got a
it's a
question about
win-win.
Salah.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, from this season, it looks like Slot is trying to prepare for the future without him. And compared to like last season, it feels like things are not really moving towards him in the way they did last season. Do you think it's just early days, or do you think this is a trend?
Well, I think it's early days. He's still got Salah playing his 90 minutes in pretty much all the games. Of course, rested him during the week for the Carabao, which was expected. It's very early days. We've sort of changed our attacking force completely. A lot of new players. I mean, Ekitike, he started on fire,
Yeah,
but joining the Premier League for the first time. Wits is he's shown some really good glimpses of the talented player he can be. But I think Slot is just trying to get his system and trying to get it to work, and maybe just not really decided on what his strongest sort of formation and which players he can put in those places. It's been sort of all over the place. And maybe what I'm seeing now is that we can spread the goals. We don't really need Salah to score. And like it or not, he's an amazing player and he's been a great servant to not just football, but to the club, and to his country. But
yeah,
maybe he's just not very happy that now, there's other people getting those goals in for them. Salah is that sort of player. He wants to get amongst the goals. He likes to score, but there's other people around him that are getting the goals, which is good for the club. But again, yes, Slot is planning for the future. I think that this was one of the best transfer seasons I've had. It was so exciting, and
yeah.
getting Isak for me, I've been a great admirer of him. And so yeah, so yes, preparing for the future. We've got goals now coming from everywhere. It's spread out. But I think Salah will come to his own. We don't need him at the moment. We're winning games, no matter what people say. We are still winning the games. But when we need him, I know he'll step up.
Okay. Now, before the season started, because like I look at your team right now and I can see that you went with a balanced approach. What is your general approach to fantasy football? By balance, I just mean that you have a good starting 11 and you have players on the bench who are going to start and will come and play.
Yeah, so number one, when I'm picking the team, I'm picking an individual. I don't really look at the form of the team. I'm looking at the individual. I try not to remain biased, whether that's why I have, as a Liverpool fan, I have Bruno in my team. I still want
Mhm.
him to do well, whether I want Man U to lose every weekend. So I look at the individual.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watch how they are playing. This the eye test is really important. I follow quite a few of the bloggers and just see what the mood is and what people are doing. But I do
Hmm.
follow a lot of football, so I do understand a lot of my football. So my approach number one is to pick the individual player, making sure that they are starting. The important thing is that they are playing their 90 minutes at least. Getting over that 60-minute mark can be very frustrating. And I notice coaches now substituting players on the 59th minute. So number one is to make sure that they're getting their minutes. And then number two, I know you talk about the balanced approach. Yeah, this is one of the first times I've got a really sort of strong bench, but this will
Mm.
change because then I will want to get maybe some other players, like some priced players, more premium players into the squad once
Like
the
who?
form starts to pick, mid-season, and put some money in the starting 11, and then
Yeah.
just have the bench players who you never really use. So that's
Okay.
that's the idea going forward. And like I said, there was the plan to use the bench boost early. So I really
Yeah.
needed to get a good balance and to pick the right time to use the bench boost.
Okay. And when you say premium picks, who are you thinking about, like Palma or like Saka? Who are these premium picks that you talk of?
Well, again, funny you mentioned Palmer. Palmer he's been a good servant to me over the past couple of seasons. So he's one I want to get in. But also eventually, in the next couple of game weeks, I really want to have Salah back on. So I want to have Salah and Haaland. And that's big money. So
Yes.
I'll need to make some big sacrifices on the bench. So I just need to pick, your 4.0, 4.5, even players who've fallen below the 4.0 mark, and players who are just not playing at all, and get those two on the pitch. And that Salah is going to rack up the points. He's going to be up there at the end of the season. So I definitely want Haaland and Salah on my team at some stage in the next 2 3 weeks. Maybe when I wildcard, I'll just need to check when I want to do that. The other thing is how the game has changed this season completely is the defensive contributions. That has brought a new element into the game. So now
Yes,
we
it
need to look
has.
at our defenders a bit more seriously, and some of the midfielders who are collecting bonus points for their defensive contributions.
Yes. Yes. I agree with that because, and I see you've chosen very well because you have Senesi and Anderson, and these guys are defensive contribution magnets. For the
Yeah,
last
definitely. Yeah,
for the last
yeah.
four
From what we've
four
seen,
four
they've been
weeks,
collecting maximum. Yeah,
yes, they have been collecting maximum, and I'm actually even thinking about Anderson because of that, and possibly Caicedo. That's so
yeah.
interesting.
He's been another one that's got my radar, but I'm not looked at him a lot. Yeah, but these ones, the value for money is really good for the points they're picking up. And I've sort of made some money off them already. Like their value has risen. So
Yeah.
it's not players that I'll be looking to sort of get rid of. The places that I would play mostly around would maybe be my midfield from what I'm looking for. That's where maybe I'd maybe do some swapping and changing. But with the two transfers that I've made now I want to sit maybe for a couple of weeks and build up unless I'm forced to wildcard or free hit. But I'll just maybe wait till up to the next international break. Maybe I'll just build up on my transfers and not touch them because I think I have a pretty good squad and the fixtures they have coming up are pretty good too.
Okay. And as I look at your team so far in game week by game week 5, are there any regrets you've made so far? Like, do you have any players you regret having, or players you regret not having put in your team?
Well, I mean, obviously, like I mentioned, the Aston Villa pair have been a big letdown. I mean, blanking sort of every weekend. The team is just not playing well at all. I mean, Rogers again was really good for me last season.
Me
He was
too.
a really good differential. I stuck with him pretty much every game week because he's the sort of player, it didn't matter who was playing, who Emery brought into the squad. He was playing 90 minutes every time and he seemed to get an assist or a goal. So Rogers was really good. So I'm going to stick by him, keeping him on my bench for a couple of weeks and see how that team goes. But for any regrets, maybe those two they've just been really, really poor this season. But let's see if anything changed. Usually when I get Watkins out on my side, then he scores the goal in the first 2 minutes of their game, and then I'm like, what was I doing?
It's so painful. It's so painful when that happens.
Yeah.
And and what about, like, is there a player on your team who's performing better than you hoped he would?
João Pedro has been really good. João
Yes.
Pedro has been really good. Bruno has been really good. And Kudus, not many people sort of looked at him, but
Yeah.
he just is sort of picking up the points. If they get the 4, the 5, he got the 7 points last week. I'm happy with
Yes.
that. He's a good differential. Not many people have him who are around me on my league tables. So I'm
Mm.
happy. If he collects his 4 or 5 points, it's worth it because a lot of people maybe had Ritz or Gapco and they're not collecting maybe as much points as him. So he's been good. But as you asked, Bruno has been fantastic and João Pedro has been excellent.
Yes. Okay. And now, when you look at when you're looking at like selecting your players, do you say, okay, for the next five fixtures, I need to be with these players. Then for the next five, or is it like me, I believe in Haaland and I believe in Salah, and this is what we're going to do. It doesn't matter who they're playing. Boom. That's it.
Yeah, I mean those two. Yeah, like I said earlier, I mean those two, they'll turn up, and Haaland is just sort of in the form of his life. But as I said, I sort of pick my squad all starting 11. I don't really mind who they are playing. I've got Mateta. I look like I'm starting Mateta against Liverpool this weekend. He's in good form. He's the target man. He's the go-to guy for any goals that they want. So, I just pick it on the individual. I look at his form. I say, you know what, I trust you to just come out and then get your few points and I'm good to go. And that's how I go about it. And I pretty much like to go week by week. I don't try to overthink it. Because
Yeah.
sometimes now when you start to overthink it, man, you get stressed out and you start getting depressed and you're like, oh no, what's going on? You start overthinking it and you make some crazy decisions. Yeah, so I just, try and be as spontaneous as possible, trust your gut, and you go for it.
Yeah. Okay. You say you've been playing since about 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
What are the biggest lessons you've learned over the years?
Number one, enjoy it, and then keep at it. If you really want to enjoy it, you need to be consistent. Some of my biggest some of my biggest downfalls have been when it comes to the Christmas season, because now it gets to holiday season. I'm not checking up on my team as much as possible.
Yeah.
and and I tend to sort of forget. You might forget a deadline, especially when the games are all cramped up.
Yep.
But it's just about that. You need to be consistent if you want to enjoy it, and then don't over stress about it. Enjoy the game just the way you'd enjoy watching a game. You've got to
Yeah.
enjoy, trust your gut, and play with the people around you. If you're too focused on your world rank, it could get depressing sometimes. So the mini leagues are really good fun, and
Yeah.
you find yourself climbing up slowly. Yeah, so just the consistency, and what I try and just task myself is just to try and improve my ranking every year. So it's getting there, and of course, when you start getting to the top, it gets harder to break into the sort of, I want to try and get into the top 50,000 in the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's see how this season goes. So I've started well, and I hope I can kick off.
Okay. And do you think that the addition of points, like by the defensive contribution, sort of dilutes the points tally? Because it feels like there are more points available now. And like, for example, let's say at 20, when you started in 2018, 2019, when you got 2,000 points in a season, it was like, shit, I've done something. But now it's feeling like the defensive contributions are going to like jack up the score, and it looks like maybe 2,500 will be the minimum good score. Do you are you getting that vibe as well, or am I just overthinking it as I overthink?
Yeah, I think, now when I look at, I actually just picked up my history and I look at my history, and from 2021, 2021 season up to last season, from then on, I've always hit the 2,500 mark,
Yeah.
and it just keeps you around 100,000 in the world. But 2023, 2024, I got 23, 2,523 points. And I
Yeah,
was in the top 50K, So I just think it's very seasonal, and it all depends on what everyone is doing around you. And what I'm now trying to avoid, you find there's a lot of template squads going out there. So everyone has pretty much the same squad. So
ideas,
you're not really making any progress.
progress. Yeah,
So that's why I'm going up to two or three players that would be very different from what anyone is thinking. And sometimes I'm telling myself, you're crazy. What are you doing? But those are the players that push you up the table. So, I think we just need to take it season by season, and if you're up there, if you're doing well and you're consistent, you'll find, 2,500 could get you in the top 100 in the world. It just depends how people are doing, so we just take it season by season. Let's not overthink it.
yeah, interesting. You brought up the idea of the template, and I guess my question for you now is, if, huh, how do I say this? With the templates, there's also a template captain, and it tends to be Haaland or Salah. So does part of this change of yours include captaining somebody else?
Yes, I've done it. I would do that 3 or 4 times a season, just especially if I'm trying to gain rank, because if the template captain does score and you've gone against it and your guy doesn't score, then you could be in a bit of trouble. But I keep it as a policy of mine to do it 3 or 4 times a season and just go crazy against the template, against the grain completely, and pick, I'll, maybe pick a Spurs player that no one is really looking at, and
Mm,
say, you know what, this guy can shine today. Solanke might score 3 goals, 2 goals, whatever it is. Even if he's 2 or 3 points less than Salah or Haaland, you really get propelled up the table because no one else had them, So yes, I sometimes I will go against the template when it comes to the captains, and
yeah.
I'm very deliberate and intentional about that.
Okay. And I have a random question. Now, Nottingham Forest changed their manager from Nuno Espirito Santo to Ange Postecoglou. How do you think that's going to change that team? Because I'm trying to figure out what they are, because they're definitely not going to be as defensive as they used to be, but I can't tell what they are
Yeah,
looking
I
like now.
mean, yeah, it's rather. I think it's unfortunate when a coach sort of loses his job, and it's not because of the on-field results and other external matters. And we all know that this was the beef he had with the owners and some of the comments that he made.
Yeah.
And I'm really surprised by the choice that they went to. And Ange is a big talker. I was
Yeah.
really happy for what he did at Spurs. He really sort of backed up his game.
Yes.
And I mean, it was obvious. It was pretty obvious that he was going to go. And I think he had already seen the writing on the wall.
Mm.
Now, Forest were playing some really, really good football. They were a really dangerous side. You knew what to expect, but you still didn't know what to expect because they would hit sides and surprise them, and they did really, really, really well. Now they've got a coach. I think they played 3 games and they haven't won any yet. They've drawn a couple and they lost the first one. I think they drew in Europe. I think it was Real Betis. Yeah, so it'll be very interesting. They've got some really good attacking players, and that's the way he likes to play his football.
Yeah.
But they've got a really good squad. They've strengthened really well. They've got a really loyal fan base. Let's see what he does defensively. The next few weeks, once, the coach, I always say you need to give a coach some time
Yeah.
to implement his philosophy, to get the buy-in from the players. So we need to give him another 3, 4, 5 weeks and see how that works out for them. And I mean, I like him. He's a vocal coach. You really like those characters. They really
Yeah.
make the game entertaining. So let's just see how that goes. And it'd be really good to see Nuno also back in the Premier League.
Yeah. I agree. And with like, for example, your team, Liverpool, for people who are not very big fans of Liverpool and are looking to get into Liverpool assets, how do you think Isak Ekitike thing will work out? Do you think one of them will be pushed out to the wing? Or do you think, like, now Isak will start this weekend, then like when the suspension comes back, Ekitike will start. How do you think this thing is going to play out?
I'll tell you, I think we're all guessing, from us on podcasts, us playing FPL, from all the pundits on all the sort of stations that I watch, everyone is wondering what next. Everyone sort of believes that Isak will take that role and sort of push Ekitike out. But
Yeah,
how can you, when he's scoring at will, every time he's come on, he scored against over the weekend
yeah,
or during the week, but did the silly thing and got red carded.
yeah,
So this now sort of gives Isak a chance to start. Whether he starts or not, we'll find out. There's also the conversation about the left. How do you sort of get rid of Gakpo, who's been doing really well? I
yeah.
just don't feel Gakpo is the sort of player like who Diaz was. So we'll miss Diaz because of his trickery and the pace of the trickery, that sort of could beat defenders on that left side. But again, he's a
Absolutely.
different player. He's got the goals amongst him. So it's every coach's dream and nightmare at the same time. You've got really good players and you've got players on form, you've got the pressure of Isak's transfer, but I think Slot is such a level-headed manager. He's not going to get to his head. That's why they're paid the big money. He's got to make the decision, and hopefully it works for him and for us fans and the players. It's just to get that mix right. So your guess is as good as mine. How they work it? Can you play the Are we going to see at least once or twice the two of them, Ekitike and Isak up front? Maybe change the formation a bit with the two up front. We don't know. Only time will tell. So the moment we're all guessing, I suppose.
Okay. And how do you feel about your new wing backs in Kirkes and Frimpong?
I don't know. Let's start with Kirkes. Yes, he has started slowly. He's a hard worker, really talented boy. My brutal assessment, I mean, even when I watched him at Bournemouth,
Yeah.
he's really good for FPL. That I must say. But even when I watched him at Bournemouth, yes, he did a good job. I don't know if he's a Liverpool player, to be honest. At the moment, he looks like he's struggling. I don't think he gives us the sort of drive that we had from Robertson and even Simicas. It's a pity to see Simicas get pushed out, and I believe he's out on loan.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting. He has a lot of hard work to do there. And if he's not up to scratch in a season or two, I don't see him lasting long because I really find like he's really good defender, but I feel like he's struggling to the whole system. Frimpong, Frimpong is another kettle of fish. He's good, got a lot of pace. He's the sort of guy that we're looking for, can beat the defenders. He's a good crosser of the ball. He's got good energy. He's sort of settled in well. A lot of competition there with Bradley, but Bradley sort of struggled, and maybe the injuries have slowed him down a bit. But
Yeah.
Frimpong, that would become his position. He's the guy for that place. We've got the pace, and now we have sort of no offense to Trent, we have a real defender in that position. You
Yeah.
know, so
Ability.
we've got that side covered. Yeah, so really good signings on paper, really good players. Frimpong has obviously settled in much faster.
Yeah.
And I really hope Kekes can get up to speed because from what I've observed so far, he has really struggled, and let's see how it goes.
Okay. So yeah, I've had your advice on Liverpool players. Now, is there anybody who is currently not in your team that you want to bring into your team? Like somebody you've been watching,
Um,
like for example, like Grealish has been looking good. I've seen you've just brought in Semenyo. Is there another like Semenyo player that you want to bring in?
um, to be honest, it's looking good. I mean, there are players that you're believing that their form will pick up and you want to bring them in later. But to be honest, I'm happy for now. Maybe in the goalkeeping department, I'd like to strengthen that.
Yeah.
Maybe in the defense. I did talk about wanting to make changes in the midfield, and maybe that's where I'll swap and change. But again, some of the loyal, as difficult again as this may seem, we need to separate our club loyalties from the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I need to look at the defense. So I'm looking at City defense. Guardiola
Okay.
was really good for me and Gabriel last season.
Oh yeah.
and and maybe something in goal. But I also like the Chelsea defense, so maybe I might just keep Sanchez, but then maybe look to bring in Vadio or Gabriel at some point, or maybe even Timber, who costs a little less. But Gabriel and Vadio, especially Vadio, can cement his position. Those two are really, really good. A bit pricey, then that will sort of interfere with the midfield. But yeah, those two, those for now, yeah. But for now, I'm pretty happy with the team. But those are the two that I would like to really have in my team at one point. You can't ignore the Arsenal defense, to be honest.
Okay. There's some players, some managers who have formations that they use. Like, for example, I'm currently using, I think, a 4-5-2, something like that, or 3-5-2.
Yeah.
What formation do you prefer to use so far? Are you preferring
Um,
like three at the top or four in the middle?
yeah, it started the first couple of weeks was a 3-5-2, just because I had Mark Gale, how do you say it? The guy who's gone back to Chelsea. I had him as my low cost striker. He was just going to sit on the bench
Yes.
until sort of Chelsea
We,
recalled him from loan, and I was playing up front with Watkins and João Pedro, and I had the
yes.
five midfield. But I'm now going to lean. I mean, as I said, I've got a strong sort of forward line, and they cost quite a bit of money, so there's no point of having them on the bench. So for the next couple of weeks, I'm looking at the 3-4-3 with Mateta, João Pedro, and Haaland. I don't think I'll be touching those three for a while unless injuries forces me to. So the 3-4-3 will be the preferred one going forward.
Okay. And now, to be on this interview, you are the top tally leader of the week. Now, at the other end, there's some people who are not doing so well. What kind of what kind of advice or tips would you give them to get better, short of just copying your team?
I mean, for me, yeah. I mean, there's one thing, you can copy, you can look around and copy people's team. At the end of the day, you've got to look around. I mean, look around a few teams, look around other players, what people are doing around the world, around people in your mini league. That's number one. And then at the end of the day, just trust your gut. I mean, the game is exactly what it means. It's a fantasy league. You don't know when it'll work for you, when it will not, and then just stick at it because it's I know when you're not doing well, you don't even want to look at it sometimes. You don't even want to bother. You say,
Yeah.
I'm going to give this thing a break, and then it starts calling you. It says, come back, I've got something for you. So
Yeah.
you just need to be consistent. I mean, you're going to have your off days, you're going to have your good days. If you're consistent and then you begin to learn the game, then you're good to go. And there is a learning process, when I've got my younger, nephews and my son's playing it. And, in the beginning, they're really excited. They want to make substitutions. They want to play with the players that they admire on TV. When they're still getting new to the game and then they really get disappointed. And I say, slowly, you learn. Then when
Yeah.
they hit a big week, they are really excited and they are back into it. I beat you that week, and that's all they're focused on. And,
Yeah.
and, and that's good. So it's just about consistency, and then and it'll come, and just trust your gut, just be consistent and trust your gut.
And so, like for example, there's a guy who's at the bottom of the table. He's called Don Clinton. I saw this week he made 14 transfers, and by 14 I just mean 14 straight.
Wow.
No wild card, no nothing, just 14 transfers.
Yeah.
Wh- How many transfers do you think one should be making in a week?
No, when I see people like that, you get quite a few. Those are people who are just toying around and want to, they're focused on the game week.
Hey.
Maybe they're just focused on the game week, just fooling around. But there's
Yeah.
also, I've also learned there's a few people who have two or three teams and playing with different names. So just,
Mm,
testing around different combinations and seeing which one does best.
and different
So
ideas.
again, I mean, there's no point of taking hits if you're not going to recover. But when people are doing that, honestly, they're not looking to rise up the table. They're just looking for the fame for that week. To be honest, there's nothing really much I can say about that. That's crazy stuff. Mhm.
Okay. So I've seen you've used one of your chips. What is going to be a strategy for the remaining chips? The bench boost. I mean, you've
Well,
used the bench boost. Now you've got the free hit and them. Are you targeting particular weeks?
Yeah, I'm not really looked, like I mentioned earlier, I mean the wild card could be tempting just to get rid of the one before Christmas, but I don't know, maybe I'll use that just after the international break and then target the games, the Christmas fixture congestion then. So let's see how that goes. There is a temptation to triple captain Haaland this weekend. Um, but we need to wait for the press conferences tomorrow and see whether he's going to play or not. I think Pep, it's mind games with Pep, and I don't think Haaland would want to be on the
You know,
bench. He wants to continue with his form. So there could be a temptation to triple captain, but I'm leaning more against not doing it. Then yeah, as you said, the wild card. As I said, the wild card maybe after Christmas, because I think my no before Christmas, because my squad is pretty strong. Use the wild card before Christmas because then we get another one after, and I don't want to lose that.
yeah,
So for now, to be honest, no real plans to use any chips. I'm happy with the team. Maybe this team can get me going, keep me for another 2 weeks because I'm happy. If I need to swap around, I've got Anderson on the bench in defense, maybe for Coral, Williams, or Senesi, just
yeah,
depending on how I see, especially the Forest defense is doing. But Williams is always picking up the points.
yeah,
I've got Rogers in midfield, who I've said I've always trusted. I can shift him around. If I was to swap him, it would either be with Reinders or Kudus. I mean, I would keep, Bruno and Semenyo you wouldn't touch. Yeah, so at the moment, no chips, to be honest, no real strategy. I don't try and overthink it. I don't want to have pen and paper saying I'm doing
yeah,
this week, and I just want to play it week by week, studying the players' forms. And then, I've used my two transfers, and I've got to trust my gut that I've made the right decision from what I've seen. And barring injuries, and I really hope Haaland plays this weekend, I think I'm good to go.
Question. You saw your team play against Burnley.
Yes.
Do you think it's advisable to triple captain Haaland against Burnley?
Number one, yeah, City are going to sort of be at 80% possession, to be honest. And City do have a way of breaking down teams that park the bus, you know, better than actually than I believe Liverpool do. So as I said, it's at the back of my head, maybe, and maybe the idea is just to get rid of the chips, so that you just don't have to think about it. And maybe if I put the triple captain and he hauls, then I'll get another big rise. And I said I want to get a really big start. But again, it's I'm more 70-30 that I won't do it. And as I said, I believe City just have the personnel. They can sort of break up any sort of defense, whether people park the wall or not. And
Yeah.
City playing at home, this could easily be 4 or 5 goals to yeah, honestly.
So you believe in the hammering that is coming?
Yeah, but it's the EPL national. I mean,
Anything can happen, huh?
uh, anything can happen, man. I know you could be watching that game and Burnley score the first goal and be saying, "Ha ha!" I heard what you were saying in that podcast. So yeah, you never know. So, but it could be just that sort of game. They're really enjoying their football. Um, the good surprise package of the early start of the season is Foden. He had fallen out of favor, was sort of form.
Yeah.
He's really playing well, scored again.
Yep.
Was it yesterday, midweek,
Yes, he
which is
did.
good. So he adds something. Doku is in great form, and I'm seeing now Pep is trusting him to start games. So
Yeah.
he's sort of tearing up midfields on that right hand side. So they've got the personnel to open up teams. And without Marmoush now, their go-to man is purely Haaland. So
Yeah.
it's looking good for them. So we never know.
Okay. Now, I usually ask people this towards the end, and the question is, what is your current hot take about football?
My current
Right.
hot take.
Yeah, like a hot take, just something that you believe that is probably unpopular with many. Like for example, I never thought
Hmm.
much of Dembele when he was at Barcelona, and when he was at Barcelona,
Ah, okay. Yes, 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 yes.
I would actively tell people he's bringing down the team. He is bringing down the team, and
Yeah,
he was like, how you said Kekes is not a Liverpool player.
yeah, yeah,
I never ever thought Dembele was a Barcelona player. And as
yeah,
soon as he
yes, yes.
left, it showed to be true
Mm,
because now he's playing his best
yes,
ever football and he's
yeah,
even won the Ballon d'Or. And none of this would have been possible had he remained at Barcelona. even with the current Barcelona.
Correct.
That's what I strongly believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a strong opinion of anything football related like that?
Geez, what can I think of? I mean, look at I think one player that's just amazing, especially because maybe you use the Dembele example. João Pedro has just been a total revelation. I know he did score goals for Brighton and whatever, but just didn't think he was, that talented up to the task. And when Chelsea was signing him, I'm like, are they just buying another striking player for, just for the sake of it?
Yeah.
And he's been their go-to guy completely. He's been really a real revelation. And it'd be interesting. What's so funny is that Liam Delap gets injured, and he was probably going to be the top man up front,
Yeah.
and he's just taken his chance, and it's just worked for him. He's been miraculous, to be honest. And I didn't see him as that sort of player. It'd be interesting now how he fits into the Brazilian squad. I mean, they cannot ignore him. He's been excellent. The other player again is what's his name? Madueke at
Ooh,
at
Arsenal.
Arsenal. Yeah, I mean, what a revelation! Just watching him play and play both for Arsenal, and he's been sort of Arsenal's best players, if I can say so.
Hmm.
And it's going to be interesting times because Saka is back fit. What are they going to do on that right hand side?
Well,
And
unfortunately, he got injured. He's out for 2 months now.
yes, he did, yes.
So we'll have to
And
wait.
yes, you'll have to wait a bit. Yeah, it's so funny how these things work themselves out. One comes back, the other gets
And
injured.
then, I know. Because
Yeah,
even
but
like,
he's also been really good, and I watched him play also for England. The Tuchel got him into the starting lineup, and he
oh,
was
yes.
he was a live wire and scored. Just it's amazing how just a switch of team just brings a fresh,
New lease
a
of
new
life.
new lease of life. A breath of fresh air to these players, and now now the examples start to roll in. Look at Salah at Chelsea. Look at Salah at Liverpool, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's yeah, so there's quite a few examples now, and some of these coaches, kudos to them, are bringing, the best out of these players, and yeah, so I think there'll be more revelations this season. This season is going to be very interesting, to be honest. Everyone tips Liverpool to win it just because of the squad, but I think there's so many strong teams out there. Some very strong defensively, very hard to break down, and some have just some really amazing attacking players that can surprise you at any moment. So maybe let's talk at the end of the season and see, and then maybe I'll have more hot takes, for you.
No problem. Well, with that, I just want to say thank you for your time,
Yes.
and I hope you keep performing well, and I get to interview again.
Yes, thanks. Yes, thanks for the opportunity. I'm enjoying the league. I joined this one. I think last season was my first one after I noticed it come up the season before, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, looking forward. I really want to do well in this particular one. It's one of the mini leagues that I'm watching closely.
Yeah, it's quite
And well done to
competitive.
the good job you're doing. The podcast. Now that I know that it exists, I'll listen to it a bit more every week. And thanks for
Th-
having me on the show.
Thank you so much.